Our goal is just to truly be a resource to these pregnancy care centers with tangible cash donations, free coffee, because who doesn't love that? And, this really cool partnership link where they can use that. And, it's a fun way where, they can raise money, obviously, from it, but it's like people get to order coffee and directly support their local center.
Welcome to Lifeline for Leaders, a podcast created to strengthen and connect those serving in pregnancy care clinics and pro-life ministries. I'm Linda Thomas.
And I'm Kirk Thomas. Each week we sit down with leaders, ministry partners, authors, and experts who shape the pro-life landscape, sharing practical insights you can use right away and inspiring stories that remind you you're not walking this journey alone.
Our mission is to help you serve with confidence and resilience. This is your community, your support, your lifeline. Today we're talking with someone who's building more than a business. Anton Krecic is the founder and CEO of 7 Weeks Coffee, a company that's helping support pregnancy care centers across the country while demonstrating what it looks like to lead with conviction and excellence. Anton, welcome to Lifeline for Leaders.
Linda, thanks so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is such a pleasure. I've enjoyed your coffee for a long time now and love your story, and we're going to get into that. But first, as always, I am going to say a prayer. Actually, as always, it is usually Kirk, so I guess that isn't the case today. He's not able to make it today due to some technical issues, so I will go ahead and lead us in prayer. Father, thank you for Anton and the vision you've given him. Bless our conversation today and use it to encourage leaders and strengthen the work of protecting life. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right. So, Anton, again, welcome to Lifeline for Leaders. I think many of our listeners are probably, if they're not familiar with you, they're familiar with your company. And let's just start off with you telling us a little bit about your story. Why 7 Weeks Coffee and what are you doing for this movement?
Well, it really started with a simple idea to raise money for our local pregnancy resource center. I've always had a passion for business and entrepreneurship and loved coffee. And I literally Googled pro-life coffee one day and nothing came up. And it really inspired me to start a pro-life coffee company. I have a lot of thanks to my wife who inspired the name. She asked me, when is a baby the size of a coffee bean? Because sometimes moms will say like my little bean is like a term of pregnancy. And I look it up at 7 weeks, a baby is the size of a coffee bean, the same time a heartbeat's detected on ultrasound. And our mission was to donate back 10% of every sale to support ultrasound services at pregnancy care centers. And really to raise money for our local pregnancy resource center here in Northern Virginia, and actually one back in Cleveland, Ohio, where I'm originally from. And I thought it'd be a great idea to raise some money for them. So we sold $8,000 our first month. We gave a check of $800 away. Since then, now we've been able to partner with nearly 1,500 pregnancy resource centers. We've donated thousands of different times and actually have just surpassed $2 million donated to the pro-life movement. So it really has become like a model now that we've been able to implement to, almost half the country's PRCs to support them financially. And with the same goal of supporting their ultrasound services, which is one of the main things they do, but also just their work of serving moms in need. And so 10% every sale is a huge portion of our profits. Like roughly 50% of our profits we're giving back so much because the cause is so worthy and we want to keep supporting them and support the work of PRCs because they're often, I'm sure as you know, need more and more resources. They're often running on shoestring budgets. They need more and more support. And for me, they are the most important, aspect of the pro-life movement. They are working with women who are facing a crisis pregnancy. So they deserve the most amount of funding, in my opinion. And so that's our goal. We want to keep showering them with support, love, and practical financial resources.
Well, and you have been so successful on that. Have you surpassed $2 million yet? I know you're approaching it. Tell me about that. We just did.
We announced it. Yeah, we just surpassed $2 million donated a few weeks ago, which is really cool to hit that milestone.
Well, and you've done that in a really short period of time because you just started this in 2021, correct?
Yeah, we're 5 years in. We hit $1 million donated about 3.5 years in. And now, maybe a year later, we hit another $1 million donated. So we're growing really fast, which is awesome. It's just really just thanks to all the customers that have made the switch has allowed us to give back more and more.
Well, and I subscribe and I only say that because I want people to understand when they purchase your coffee, they're not sacrificing quality. You've got a really great product. So you've combined that great product with a phenomenal cause. And you have a little bean at home, a new bean at home, don't
Yeah,
you?
I do. My wife and I had our first son about a year ago. Actually, his first birthday is coming up, so we're so excited to celebrate that. I can't believe it's been a year already, and it's been really cool to kind of live out, this pro life journey. Literally being a father for the first time, and it's been such a blessing just to see him grow and his personality develop and really inspire us for what we do with the pro life mission, which is that kids are such a blessing. Like they're literally so much fun to just be with. They just bring a smile to you, and yeah, it's really inspired, I think, the work that we do even more.
Well, you have such a creative name for your business. Was the name for your son equally as creative?
Well, the name for my son was, I did not have much choice. So my wife inspired the name for 7 Weeks Coffee. And I guess I'd say she really inspired the name for our son, Peter, because she literally told me it's totally God that she had prayer for at some event. And she like vividly was like, I feel called that we're going to have a son and name him Peter. I don't know if it was because of a certain Bible verse that was speaking to her, but she was very like definite, like we're going to have a son and we're going to name him Peter. And then sure enough, a little bit later, we found out we're pregnant and found out it's a son. And I'm like, okay, I guess the name's going to be Peter. So Krista, my wife, definitely picked that name, and I love it. It's a great kid, and we love him so much.
Well, congratulations to that and the success of your business, like I said. So Billy Graham's philosophy kind of had a profound impact on your company. Can you go back and tell me how that came to be?
Well, I remember just seeing this quote of that businesses can be a force for good. And it was to the effect of the next move of God being in the marketplace. Like this idea that ministry, how do we serve the Lord? I think a lot of times we think that means like nonprofit work or in the church or something very specific, like a religious sense, when the idea of like ministry can be in everything that we do, specifically business. And so that's what really inspired me, because we are a for-profit company. We're not a nonprofit. We do make money. We have to be profitable to keep giving back, but we use what we make and we steward that well for, the kingdom, ultimately giving back to pro-life organizations. And so for me, it's like this really important thing is that as other Christians think about like callings and careers, like serving the Lord could really mean building a successful business. Like that's really an amazing thing to do. And it can have a much larger impact than you ever imagined. Really just think about the people that you would hire and employ and the impact you have on them one day, the dollars that you'll make and how you can steward those and the impact you can have with your business. So I think it's really overlooked that, the idea of like business being a force for good and also growing a successful business. I always say, like, wouldn't it be awesome if the CEO of these major, top 5 corporations, your Amazons, your Apples, these big companies, wouldn't it be awesome if they're run and operated by Bible believing Christians? I think there's like a misunderstanding that like money, we have to be scared of to the effect of like abstaining from it. Really, it's like, how do we steward things the right way? And I think that's kind of the attitude I want to approach to it and share with others.
Well, that's so true. Many businesses hide their charitable contributions or even hide that they're Christians when it comes to, their 9 to 5. And what you're doing proves how successful a company can be in such a short period of time. That's what really is one of the many incredible things. So what about your background? Did you what kind of skills did you possess to actually be able to have such an important or strong growth?
Well, it was a few different things. I mean, one thing, so before I started 7 Weeks Coffee, I was doing political fundraising. So I was raising a lot of money for conservative and faith-based nonprofits, candidates, and things of that nature, which was great. I enjoyed it. I'd learned a lot about marketing, quite frankly. And when the idea of 7 Weeks Coffee was kind of like a similar thing, instead of people donating to a certain cause or candidate or, nonprofit that they support, they're literally buying coffee and having the same like impact in a sense. Like you buy coffee and we're directly going to support the pro-life movement. So I learned a ton about that. But man, I mean, I've always had a knack and hunger for entrepreneurship. And really the biggest thing that I think led to a lot of our success is just going after from day one. Like when I had the idea and I called my wife, like I had the idea for a pro-life coffee company. I mean, I didn't wait like 10 minutes before I started like working on like the logo and the idea and the concept and brainstorming. And you just have to have such a hunger and desire to go after something with just with complete faith that the Lord can bless it. I didn't know how big this would get. It's bigger than imagined, quite frankly, but just going after it immediately and just taking a step in that direction. And within 2 months, actually, from when I had the idea, you could buy a bag of coffee in 7weekscoffee.com, which is really cool. We didn't sell as nearly as much as types of coffee as we do now, but I think that led to a lot of like early adoption from people. And it really gave me a lot of confidence. Like, okay, I think there's something here. Like this could catch on. And that's the cool thing about business. You really don't know how big something can get. And I'm still discovering that, quite frankly, with 7 Weeks Coffee. It's much bigger than I thought it'd ever be. And we're only 5 years in. Who knows where the next 5, 10, even 15, 20 years takes us. So that's what's really cool about business is like the scale of things at which they can get if you just apply, your hard effort and hard work to it, will definitely surprise you.
I imagine that you would have some growing pains when you grow so quickly in such a short period of time. Can you talk about your growing pains and what kind of things you did to overcome those obstacles?
Oh man, I mean, there's so many. The biggest thing, I'll say this, the thing that I feel like I did well and I still try to do is keep our business very simple. It's so easy to get distracted and also complicate things, because when you're growing your business, you always think of like new things you can be doing, new products, new offerings, other avenues of business, whatever it may be. For us, it was like, no, we're just going to keep selling coffee online. Like that's our main thing that we do. That's our goal, and continue to donate back 10% every sale. So I've always kept like a very specific focus of our business. And I think that has allowed us to concentrate on that and be really good at one thing, because you don't want to be like kind of average at 10 different things. You want to be very good at one thing. But there's so many growing pains. I mean, we've had issues with suppliers. We've had people try to copycat us and, rip us off, and all the different things that you would, imagine. Unfortunately, that's out there in the business world that we've had to come up against. And it's hard to keep a level head and all of that. The biggest thing is just not to overreact. It's so easy to get emotional with your business or get super, tied up into it. And so I think that's something I have to always watch myself and keep that healthy balance of like, okay, bad things happen. There's always going to be pitfalls, but we're going to keep focused on our mission. And then when you come back to that, there's like a piece within it. Like our mission, our goal is to fund the pro-life movement 1 cup of coffee at a time by donating back 10% of every sale. And so if we keep that on our forefront, I think that leads to a lot of clarity and a lot of peace.
Yeah, absolutely. And many of the guests that we've had on Lifeline for Leaders have talked about mission drift. And that's very similar to what you're saying, is just, we have this mission. We may be, or we'll be open to going about it in a different way, perhaps, as things change. But the mission is always going to be the same. And that sounds like that's what's made you successful up to this point, for sure. So how are the centers using 7 Weeks Coffee?
Yeah, so it's really cool how we've been able to partner with pregnancy care centers. Because when I had the idea of giving back 10% of every sale, as you probably could imagine, a lot of pregnancy care centers started reaching out like, hey, how can we receive funding? It's like, okay, we need like a program, a way they can engage with us. So just so customers know and centers know, we basically accept all pro-life pregnancy care centers if they're fully pro-life, which means they don't refer or support abortion in any capacity. So we do have a vetting process. Anyone can sign up to become a partner. And it quite literally is funding for them. They apply and they can receive a check within a couple months from us. They can receive these checks multiple times a year. What's also really cool is they get a partnership link where they can share this with their friends and family. So, if there's someone, that they want to buy 7 Weeks Coffee, not only are they buying 7 Weeks Coffee and supporting, pro-life in general, pregnancy care centers in general, they get to support their local pro-life pregnancy care center. So that's what's really cool. So they get to do that. We engage with them with, free coffee for galas and events. We've done coffee hours. We do a lot of coffee for their galas, donor gifts as well. And so our goal is just to truly be a resource to these pregnancy care centers with tangible cash donations, free coffee, because who doesn't love that? And, this really cool partnership link where they can use that. And, it's a fun way where, they can raise money obviously from it, but it's like people get to order coffee and directly support their local center. So we think that's pretty fun and cool. So those are a couple of different ways we work with these pregnancy centers. That's
amazing. So I told you before we started recording that Kirk and I met you probably a couple of years ago at the Heartbeat International Conference. What kind of things do you do as far as letting centers and others know that 7 Weeks Coffee exists and exists to help them?
Well, I think it's cool. We've grown a lot of word of mouth. We do all the major pregnancy conferences, CareNet, Heartbeats, some other local ones where we just try to get in front of all the pregnancy centers as we can to share with them what we're doing. It's literally, free support. There is no strings attached. If you sign up, you receive funding from us, which is really cool. So, I think that's why a lot of centers, join our partnership program and why they love working with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking ahead, what kind of opportunities or challenges do you believe are most important for the pro-life movement over, I don't know, say the next 5 years or so?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, the biggest challenge facing the pro-lifers right now is definitely the abortion pill. I'm sure you're, aware of the majority of abortions are now through the abortion pill by mail. And I think the biggest thing we need to figure out is how to protect pro-life states from actually enforcing their pro-life laws. So what do I mean by that? Most states that are pro-life are basically getting vetoed, if you will, like their laws are being null and void because of the abortion pill by mail. So it's a huge thing where like essentially a state, if you think about that, people of the state elect their leaders to pass bills that they support. The majority of the people, the majority of elected leaders support, the bill that was, pro-life, and it passes. And then literally it gets null and void because, abortions can just get passed through the mail, through the abortion pill. So I think figuring out how to stop the mail order abortion pill from at least being mailed across the United States will be a huge win for the pro-life movement. That's going to definitely allow at least states to have some type of enforcement over that. And I think that's really important. Outside of that, just having unity within the pro-life movement is important. There's a lot of different debates about, how we should approach this topic, which is fine. It's good to have healthy conversation. But I think like there's these more big pillars of issues that we need to focus on, especially with the mail order abortion pill.
Yeah, that's definitely the topic that comes up most often as the biggest challenge, for sure.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
So you, with your political background, how has that helped you in this arena?
Well, it's been interesting. I've been trying to make more relationships in DC. It's kind of a background. I know a lot of people there and, trying to share what we're doing and really hopefully advocate for life, especially what the pregnancy resource centers are doing. Like we want to tell their stories well because we support them. We believe they're the most important, they play the most important role of the pro-life movement, which is helping moms, because no matter what law is passed or not passed, like a mom is going to face an unplanned pregnancy. So just advocating for them and talking about the work that they're doing. And I think that's allowed us to have some just really cool conversations. It's fun. Just some, members of Congress that have ordered our coffee, which is awesome. And, we don't have the most pro-life Congress right now. It's kind of been an issue where haven't really taken up. It's unfortunate to see what's happened with Planned Parenthood being allowed to be refunded through taxpayer dollars through Medicaid reimbursements. And so I think that's sad. But I think regardless what happens in Washington, it's important that we continue to stay vigilant at the local level and support moms who are facing unplanned pregnancies. Like we don't want to give up hope. Like there is still a lot of amazing good we can do.
So Anton, this is the point of Lifeline for Leaders where I ask the same question. It's the last question, and it's one that, like I said, I ask everyone. And is if you could leave our listeners with one lifeline, one piece of practical wisdom or encouragement, what would that be?
Something top of mind is the shift in our culture where we become so obsessed with things. And we've had this mindset of loving things and using people, that we use people to get where we want in life. And we are obsessed with things, acquiring and wanting more and more. And we need to flip that to loving people and using things instead of loving things and using people. And so when we love people, it becomes the most important thing to love people well, to care about them personally, not to just figure out how you can get something from them, and to use things in a practical way, not to be obsessed with collecting and wanting the next thing, because it can become an obsessive thing. And so I share that even for myself, that as our business grows, that we continue to love people and use things well and steward things well.
Well, you've certainly stewarded your business well and for a great cause. And so thank you for that and for joining us today and for reminding us that purpose and excellence, when they come together, make an extraordinary impact. Thank you so much. And for our listeners, as always, keep leading with courage and compassion.
Thanks for joining us today on Lifeline for Leaders. If today's episode was meaningful, feel free to share it with someone who might benefit. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a conversation.
Remember, You don't have to walk this mission alone. We're honored to walk alongside you.
See you next time.